Prepaid debit call from
Rick.
This call is subject to monitoring and recording. Thank you for using Embark.
Hey.
What up?
Flip, I was in Vegas when I was 15 with Rob and them from Stokes, with Johnny Curry on them at the Hearns Hagler fight, with fake ID that the FBI gave me. I had ID that I was 21.
Right. They set that up and they sent you the money. They sent you the ticket and everything, didn't they?
Paid for everything. Gave me the money. Gave me pocket money. Paid for the tickets.
White boy Rick Wershe was a criminal prodigy or wonderkin. He came up at a really young age under the Curry Brothers organization. Was being used as an underage informant by a drug task force that was compiled between DEA, FBI, and DPD. And 13, 14 years old, was in the drug game and kind of made a name for himself hanging around with Johnny Curry.
At that time, man, we was just some stylish young cats, man. You know, we 16, 17 years old, man, getting crazy money. By the time I was 18, I had $1 million in cash, man, you know, but little did I know what came with that, you know?
Federal investigators who did not want to go on camera say that Rick started his drug empire as a cocaine delivery boy for the Curry brothers here in this eastside Detroit neighborhood near Dickerson and I-94. In fact, Rick and several members of his family lived here on this street, Hampshire.
At like 14 years old, Rick Wershe was a 14-year-old white kid, kind of in this all-black, no, he wasn't, this all-black environment, and was very street savvy and charismatic, and had a magnetic personality. And even though he wasn't very well educated, he had an 8th grade education. He took to the street economics very well. Had a really good head for numbers.
They kept talking about this kid, and he was just a kid. He was 17 years old. And when they would call him White Boy Rick, there were a lot of guys I represented. If they were real light, somebody would say, they'd call him White Boy. So I just assumed the guy was a light-skinned brother. I didn't think he was really white.
He was just a white boy. It's almost like the Eminem effect. It's like, damn, this nigga just got skills. When I mean skills, some for real motherfuckers put him down, and he showed motherfuckers what it was like.
And I remember I was at home, and I get this phone call. And it sounds like any other street brother out of Detroit. And I say, hello, Steve? Yeah. He starts talking, this white boy. And I said, what? And he said a few things. I said, nah, this ain't no white boy. Who you think you're talking? Who you kidding? And he took about 3 minutes. It took him to persuade me that this was really White Boy Rick.
I went to school with the niggas. I went to school with a whole bunch of homeboys. I used to ride past the little video shop they used to have up on the Ave over here, you know what I'm saying? I can see them niggas like 10, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock in the video shop, like, you know what I'm saying, chopping it up like, yeah, we them deals, you know what I'm saying?
Johnny Curry, who was in his late 20s and married to Mayor Coleman Young's niece. So as a result, he had a lot of big political pull, which then gave him a lot of pull on the streets. Johnny Curry was driving around town in his Mercedes-Benz, and he had this 14-year-old white kid sitting next to him. For whatever reason, Wershe was able to make his way up in the Curry organization pretty fast, and Johnny Curry took a liking to him and kind of became a mentor. And for a couple years there, at 14, 15 years old, Wershe would be seen all around town with Johnny Curry, which automatically gave him a lot of pull, a lot of weight.
Over time, White Boy Rick gained the confidence of Johnny Curry and became his right-hand man.
They were getting money. Them niggas, you ain't never see their hall on 7 Mile?
Nope.
They own Holiday Hall. My father redid their whole hall.
I think the government was very desperate at that time. You had a lot of members of the government that were working for these organizations, which was really undermining a lot of the work they were doing. And happened to be a convergence of circumstances where Wershe's father was a FBI informant in the 70s and had built a relationship with members of the DPD and the FBI as a gun. He sold guns at trade shows and whatnot, and he was informing on some of the people he was selling guns to under the table, and as a result, they met the younger Wershe, and just kind of saw him as someone that wouldn't have suspicion, and someone who was a fast learner.
One of the Detroit police that I've been talking to, I just told him, I said, Kevin, they said that I was Johnny Curry's drug supplier. He said, well, we know that ain't true. I said, the only reason I went around them is when I worked for you. He's the one that said, man, me and Greg are going to do whatever we can to get you out of there. He was DPD narcotics.
Well, how the hell you even get involved with the Currys? The feds sent you to them?
I knew them, bro, but I started doing shit with them for them, bro.
In 1984, Rick nearly lost his life, surviving a shooting that was described as drug-related. Investigators found out that the Curry family had gotten word that Rick had been working as a drug informant, so they shot him.
And he almost got killed while he was doing it. He got shot when he was 15 years old by a Curry lieutenant. That there's lots of speculation on what the reasons surrounding it. Most of it centers around that Johnny Curry thought that Wershe was a mole and tried to have him killed.
Did they shoot you though?
Some people say they did, some people say they didn't. We never really, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Well,
But you definitely got shot.
yeah.
They had on masks or something?
No, it was in a house.
At that point, you would think that the government would kind of cease operations. They almost got this kid killed, but they saw it as an opportunity to put him back inside, and the thinking being that Curry would ease some of the tension. Well, I shot him and he almost got killed, and now he's coming back. So obviously, this was their thinking, that Curry would think, oh, he's probably not working for the government. If he was, he wouldn't be coming back to me.
Bro, they put me in the FBI put me in the hospital when I was 15 under John Doe. I couldn't have no phone, no nothing. Only one allowed to visit me or knew where I was my dad, Dawn, my grandma, and Rick's mom, and my mom.
Oh, so they was helping, they was protecting you.
Yeah, they thought that a motherfucker might try and kill me in the hospital like they did Rick.
Wershe just really became the only white person that could exist in that social scene and really had just as much respect as any black drug dealer that was, twice his age. He had just as much respect as them.
Axel, I thought I told you to go to the hospital and get that bump on your head checked out.
My head is all right, man.
It's not a request, Axel.
You know who that is, right?
I seen it on the internet. I don't really know who he is.
He used to be the head of homicide when I was home in Detroit, right?
Uh-huh.
Then he became a city councilman. He played Eddie Murphy's boss on Beverly Hills Cop.
In addition to working with law enforcement, Gil Hill became wrapped up in a slew of allegations that he was involved with the Curry brothers and was paid off to cover up a 13-year-old's death, Damian Lucas.
They talked about this little kid in this house at 11 o'clock watching TV, and shots come through the door. And the kid is hit. He stumbles out and falls and dies. And later on they talk about Gil Hill as if Gil Hill had helped some son of a bitches who shot in a house and killed a 13-year-old kid.
Man, they tried to indict his ass, but he got scared when they got them other police. That's the little dude who they ended up killing 13 years old.
Do you have any thoughts on that, on Damian Lucas, who did kill him? I mean, do you think the two people...
The very first thing, we didn't get the information at homicide. And we have to ever again speak off the top of my head about a case that an inspector to ignore his orders like that and the inspector keep his job? Does that make sense?
Authorities investigated both Gil Hill and the Curry brothers, but with little success. An innocent man was held for nearly 10 months and released for the murder. No one was convicted, and the murder remains unsolved to this day.
So once Wershe rejoined the Curry brothers, he kept delivering cocaine, but he had something else in mind. He was there to learn as much as he could. In fact, he learned so much that he decided to branch off on his own.
Government kind of created this monster that they couldn't control.
Listen, the whole thing is, they took some money out of this house. I told them where there was $250,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
They turned in like 190 G's, right?
Yeah.
He gave me 3 G's.
Wow.
So hold up. You kept $60,000 and they bugged out like, be happy you're getting anything. I said, man, be happy.
After 2 years of working with the feds and Detroit Police Department, Rick would sever his ties with the agencies.
He took all the stuff that he had learned under Johnny Curry and working with the government and started his own operation, basically picking up the remnants of the Curry organization.
Flip, I was in Vegas when I was 15 with robbing them from Stokes, with Johnny Curry on them at the Hearns Hagler fight, with fake ID that the FBI gave me. I had ID said I was 21.
Right. They set that up and they sent you the money. They sent you the ticket and everything, didn't they?
Paid for everything. Gave me the money. Gave me pocket money. Paid for the tickets.
You know, by the time he was on top, he went and got Johnny's connection and kind of was just as big as any drug dealer in the city. And then he pulled a Tony Montana and stole Johnny Curry's wife, who was the mayor's niece, and which was kind of a status symbol. He was a 16-year-old white kid walking around with, the 25-year-old kind of ghetto princess who was the mayor's niece. And it was like, hey, and I took Johnny's organization, I'm taking his girl.
As you become a man, you also need a character because that's going to define your manhood. So a lot of times men like Rick and everybody else, they look at someone else, and that helps them determine or helps, build character within themselves.
The road figures that they have, guys running around in BMWs and Mercedes with gold chains and, bracelets and things like that. The kids want to be like that. They see these guys. They want to be the same way. And the only way to get that way is to sell crack.
Using the skills he acquired from the FBI, white boy Rick jumped headfirst into the drug game, building relationships with big names like Art Derrick.
Art Derrick was a white dude, about my age right now, about 40. He had 2 jets, and he bought 2 planes from the Rolling Stones. Yeah, Art was pumping, man. Like in 85, 86, 87, he was pumping.
Right.
Yeah, he was moving more weight than anybody. Dude, they had their own private jet.
That's crazy.
In the ghetto, we used to get on their jet in the ghetto. like a half a mile from where I grew up.
Yeah.
They had a jet in the ghetto. Jump on the jet, go to Vegas, go to Miami.
In 1985, Art Derrick was one of the major drug dealers in the city. He not only supplied white boy Rick, but other leading drug dealers like Demetrius Holloway and Maserati Rick. It's estimated that Art made $100,000 a day for 2.5 years, selling between 7 and 10 kilos of cocaine a day.
50 G's just for the brick wall.
So
he had a big ass built-in pool in the yard, said AD, Art Derrick initials. He had the basement, he spent like 200 G's. He had like a disco with a vault. When he got out of prison, he went and knocked on the door, told the dude, listen man, this was my house. That you bought it from the government. And the dude said, I don't want no problem. He sold it back to him, and then he lost it.
I guess Art went down with some of the Chambers brothers.
Yeah, he used to feed them. He used to give them all the drugs. Then they blamed me, but I was selling them 25 P's a month.
Though Rick and other drug dealers were making money, it was at the expense of the community.
Because all I know is once you start smoking it, you can't stop.
That is a statement to which many crack cocaine addicts have testified, and not many people will doubt it is true. But there is an even uglier side to the crack user's life that is now coming to light. What you are going to hear might be hard to stomach, but this is the reality of crack cocaine in Detroit today.
And they want to eat. What y'all do, just share them, man. But it's all too, it's real fucked up. The murders, all the crimes and all that.
It's a new generation. They're all most people were using crack, using drugs.
Drug-related deaths are expected to soar 17% this year in the Detroit area. About 250 people will die, according to the Drug Awareness Warning Network. Crack will be a major factor.
I don't know what it is, but I won't quit. I'll keep going until I'm almost dead.
The house where white boy Rick lived is now gone, but it used to be located here on this lot. It's where in 1986, in September, a DEA agent came in and made 2 small drug purchases. And after that, federal authorities started to watch Rick like a hawk.
Man, come on, man. Listen, I'm going to tell you what the U.S. Attorney told me. He said my success is measured in wins and losses, and I don't lose.
We're ready. This is a quick review now. We're rolling. We're going to pull right up into the complex.
That's when law enforcement will get this phone call on the tip saying, this is what he's doing, and this is where he's at, and this kind of car. So that's how law enforcement get the tips from the community.
They go out the window?
That they built up this character that became White Boy Rick and basically taught him how to deal drugs for their own benefit. Then when he got too big for his britches, in their opinion, kind of cut him loose, and then the same people that had built him up came after him and tried to take him down and put him in jail the rest of his life.
That's the sound of the police. That's the sound of the beast. That's the sound of the police.
When they talked about him being the quote man, how could he be the man? I was representing the guys who were the man. And I heard his name. He was a kid.
By 87, the media took a hold of it, and the fact that you had probably the first and only white urban crime kingpin was just really a lightning rod for the media. And the nickname White Boy Rick was very headline friendly, and he wasn't real shy from the cameras. He was someone that was like the limelight.
And in October of 1987, Rick was arrested yet again, this time with a friend of his. The car was pulled over, and federal authorities and Detroit police say that they found 11 pounds of cocaine in that vehicle.
But I never believed for a minute, and don't believe today, that he was what the newspapers and the media and really the police tried to say he was. And I think it's as crazy as it sounds, he was white, and that was unique. It's like Pete Maravich. You guys are too young to remember. Maravich was our age, and the guy he was the greatest offensive player ever, but he was white, and no one could believe it. No white guy could do all these. It's kind of the same with Rick.
So you would think that after being caught with 11 pounds of cocaine, that Rick would have gone to jail for a long time. Try 8 days. He was arrested on the 13th, and by October 21st, he had posted a $100,000 bond.
I got to know him a little bit, talked to him on the phone, saw him down around the courthouse when he was on trial. He was on bond, because I remember standing in front of the court building. The jury was out, and he asked me what I thought, and I said, well, Rick, these are tough cases. The quantity, they don't know you're going to get life for it. Did you have it? If they say you had it, then you get convicted. Yeah, he says, yeah, I know, I guess.
Out on bond, it was alleged Rick had one thing in mind: to take out the key witness in his murder case. Sources say Rick linked up with Clifford Jones of the Jones Organization, who were known for being a ruthless murder-for-hire gang.
Crime in Detroit, another homicide. More tears, more pain. This is black on black crime.
Rob was like one of them major boxer, pit bull type guy. Because when he around his mama, he's sweet as honey. If he around his mama, you'll think he was a church boy. He had a kind heart, but if you flipped Rob or you did anything to the crew, he was the one that you always got to hold back.
We've got to the point where we're scared to go to work, to make money so we can pay our bills.
Rhonda Turner, her brother, and a neighbor have lived on this street collectively for nearly 25 years. Now their neighbors are black on black crime.
They beat him real bad, and you know, it was over something that somebody else stole.
Rob was the one that always gonna swing first. He always gonna pull his pistol first. He always the first one ready to fight. He was the first one to go to prison.
Once Rob got going, baby, Rob got going. You know, ain't no keeping tabs on him then. You know, Rob went out there and handled his business. Yeah, and you can believe that.
Met Steve Washington through Rob. Met him through a guy named Clifford Jones. Rob introduced me to Cliff, and Steve was his right-hand man, you know what I'm saying? And I met Cliff through some contacts I was doing back in there, and we became friends through him. You see what I'm saying? Cliff was a very peculiar type guy, you see what I'm saying? But that was my man, you know, and Steve was too.
Man, them boys used to grow up in houses with all black, but walkie-talkie, they was out cold, man.
Yeah, that's what they said. That's what they printed on them.
They'll run up in your house like the police and start raiding. They kill everybody.
Right. That's how he ended up killing 50 people, ain't it?
Yeah. As soon as he went to jail, bro, he wasn't in jail a year and they killed his little brother.
We kill him. I gotta be honest about it. Cliff was majorly scurvy to the point where Cliff cared about Cliff. You know, if you wasn't part of one of Cliff crew or you wasn't part of one of Cliff family, you didn't stand a chance.
Cliff was known for putting in work for real, you know what I mean? When Cliff was young, when he was younger, he had already served 6 years for the first murder, you know? This happened down off Joseph Campbell down there, once again, in Shane, you know what I mean? And when this one cat got killed, and he served 6 years on that. And then when he got out from serving the 6 years, that's when he came home and got into the business, you know? And from there, it sprouted.
There have been 4 drug-related murders since the first of the year on Drake Place. Disturbances almost nightly.
Uzis, machine guns, you name it.
Spend a day in these neighborhoods of projects and modest homes and you're overwhelmed by the drug sweeps and pushers. So are the people who live here.
The number of blacks killed in Detroit and around the country has already surpassed the number of black servicemen killed in Vietnam.
Bottom line is, when we decide to get rid of all of the guns, then we will stop some of this senseless killing.
He had a stamp on it. You could see that it was his stamp. You could see that it was Cliff Jones' stamp.
They're gonna come at you, and they ain't give a fuck about how you felt or your family felt when they came at you, because they'll kill you for $5. That's the type of boy Clifford Jones was. Clifford Jones was a real gangster too. My stepson has 12 murders on him. Duck. Look in the Feds magazine, Duck. 12 on him, doing life.
He was down with them?
Yeah. I was down with them. They used to come to my house, man. We was family, man. They didn't kill me. They tried to kill everybody else. When it came down to that drummer, they gonna bring it to you. And they ain't gonna just bring it to you in the street, they gonna bring it to your house. They coming in there and get you. They knocking down doors, everything. It didn't matter who they came and got. If you wasn't there, they gonna get babies and all. You know what I'm saying? Them type of gangsters you was fucking with. You know what I'm saying? So you ain't know who you was dealing with, don't get on that team and fuck up. You better get on that team and keep it real, or don't get in the game.
They got shit on wiretap where motherfuckers telling Cliff, man, the whole city is afraid of you.
Yeah.
You don't know the fear that he put in people, bro. He shot his own brother, bro.
Yeah, he out cold.
He shot his brother for stealing, bro. Blasted him.
From 1984 to 1993, the Jones Organization operated the most feared band of thugs and outlaws in the city of Detroit. However, it wouldn't be long before their reign came to an end, and Clifford Jones would allegedly take out his right-hand man, Steve Washington. Cliff was paranoid that members of his gang would present state evidence at his trial, which connected 50 drug-related killings to the Jones Organization.
When it came time for something, you know, some drama or something like that, if you didn't step forward, you know, that was like a strike. It was a mark, because now you got all eyes on you. you know.
Nothing's ever, no violent crimes have ever been attributed to him. The only thing that's ever been attributed, as opposed to other main players of the day where there's been a lot of murders heaped on them, where she kind of gets lumped into that group because of the era, but he in fact, had no violent history. Powers that be kind of put him at his doorstep. It's kind of hurt his ability to earn his freedom.
Still to this day, authorities are trying to figure out if this was a coincidence or something else. But while Rick was out on bond, a key witness in his drug case disappeared.
Believe it or not, the coldest day, whatever type of weather it is, how late it is at night or whatever, there's always someone that sees something. If you're in the city of Detroit or any major city or whatever, there's always someone who's looking out the window who's seeing something, who can describe what they see. Now, those people, some of them will come forward, some of them will say, I don't want to get involved, but there's some people who say, well, I will give the tip.
The trial took nearly 4 months, and on February 4th, 1988, Rick Wershe was sentenced to life in prison for possessing more than 20 pounds of cocaine.
He got arrested in a case where they found 8 kilos of cocaine in a yard about a block away from his house. In the aftermath of the traffic stop, and they were able to, under some suspicious circumstances, they were able to get a jury to believe that they were his drugs, even though they weren't on his property. It was kind of a controversial court case, but at the time it was a $650 law, which was one strike and you're out. And a case that he caught that was over 650 grams of a controlled substance. It was automatic life in prison without parole, which was the sentence he got when he was 18.
Saw him down around the courthouse when he was on trial. And, it was hard to believe how young this kid was and that they were going to give him life, in that over 650 law. And from where the kid came and his background and what his dad was into and all these things, I'm thinking to myself, they're making a kingpin out of a kid who's not even yet, he might have just turned 18. I mean, it's unbelievable to me that kid is still in jail. It's unbelievable. Because really, when they talked about him being the, quote, man, how could he be the man? I was representing the guys who were the man. And, I heard his name. He was a kid. Yeah, he probably had access to a kilo here and a kilo there, or a few or something like that. But he was just a kid.
May 22nd was a Friday night.
Damn.
Art is a big piece of the whole story. I wanted to get on the stand at my parole hearing, and the FBI was like, no, don't get up there. And I was like, why not? He should get up there and say, listen, I sold thousands of kilos of cocaine in 3 years. He was sitting in the front row, biggest drug dealer, one of the biggest drug dealers ever in the city, sitting in the front row. Nobody said nothing.
After being in jail for some time, Rick would make one last attempt to seek immunity and reconnected with the feds. His valuable information would lead to the arrest of Coleman Young's niece, Kathy Volson Curry, her father, Willie Volson, and former Detroit Sergeant James Harris.
Hill came to TV2 Saturday night to answer those questions. He was accompanied by Philip Woolridge, one of his counsel aides and one of the incorporators of Metro International Productions. Records show Willie Volson was the chairman of the company, Hill was the treasurer, but Hill says Volson was the money behind the venture.
At that time, I felt that he was a retired numbers man.
I, for one, as a non-elected official and a black person, find nothing offensive about a number man, even if he's not retired, to be perfectly frank. I just thought it was a good entrepreneur.
Harris and Volson put $100,000 down on a building on Cadieux with checks drawn on People's State Bank of Hamtramck and signed by Harris. But Hill remembers Volson as the financier.
Well, it was my opinion that Willie Volson, is that the way you?
No, exactly. What he brought to the table was financing. I always thought of them as inseparable. So when I say they, whether it was Jimmy Harris's money, Willie Volson's money jointly, or Willie's separately, I really don't know.
Hill and Woolridge say the business never got off the ground, and Woolridge was asked to resign for lack of professionalism.
I did not hesitate to accept the resignation. As a matter of fact, I told them I had no problem with it. But I did resent the fact that they implied that I wasn't professional, and I listed some of the calls I had made and the things I had done.
Well, I was quite angry because I thought it was a tremendous opportunity gone to waste.
Volson's criminal record goes back years. Hill and Woolridge had a bad experience with him as a businessman. So why, more than 4 years later, would Hill go to a business meeting turned sting at the request of Volson and Harris?
This was not a meeting to go into business with either one of them. This was a meeting to discuss this particular company doing business with the city of Detroit.
In the past, Hill has described Harris and Volson as friends of his. What about now, after the sting?
I would not do a friend the way that I feel that he did me, knowing what he knew and I didn't know. I would never have done a friend that way.
What about Willie Volson?
I would never have done a friend that way, the way he did. No, I don't feel they consider me as a friend, because if they did, they would not have put me in that position.
Gil Hill has a long-standing record of confronting his controversies. This one was no different. His willingness to associate with Willie Volson raises legitimate questions of judgment. But in the case of the video company, there's been no suggestion that Councilman Hill did anything illegal.
Coleman Young was involved in making sure that his daughter was looked after by surveillance squads, but the surveillance squads were put into play by DPD in order to protect the niece, not to combat any drug dealing that was going on. So that came out in the trial of Police Chief William Hart, basically paid to watch her around the clock to make sure she wasn't in harm's way, but basically told her to ignore any criminal activity that was taking place that they saw.
From 1991 until 2004, White Boy Rick's cooperation was crucial in several successful narcotics and police corruption investigations that ended up convicting over 50 people.
The foundation of the government's case against Jenkins was a series of 41 surveillance videotapes. They purportedly showed the judge accepting bribes of cash, gifts, and groceries from FBI informants. In exchange, Jenkins allegedly fixed tickets in misdemeanor court cases. But jurors who listened to the tapes thought the recordings failed to prove the government's case. Some jurors believed Jenkins had been entrapped by the FBI and its informant. The jury found the 36th District Court judge not guilty on 4 specific bribery charges, but the panel was deadlocked on a 5th charge of racketeering influence bribery. Just 10 days after that verdict, the U.S. Attorney and the FBI's special agent in charge announced that Jenkins would be retried on that 5th count that left the jury hung.
The covers had started becoming blown. A lot of them had started coming, and then you didn't really hear about a lot of these guys getting busted until later on, years down the line. They had still been doing it. But what happened, the game must have changed. And the little guys that were selling the drugs didn't mind going and tell the police on the police.
They were angry in Detroit City Council today. Council requested city officials, from Police Chief William Hart to Budget Director Walter Stetcher, appear to explain why more than $3 million police confiscated from drug dealers sat in the general fund. The money collected interest, while the city's narcotics unit didn't have cash to pay informants, and drugs overran the city.
Let's use it to do something. The coppers are out collecting dollars because the city can't buy flak-proof vests.
It is absolutely unconscionable, so far as I'm concerned, in a city with such a high rate of the drug trade.
Council also requested documented evidence. Only 2 city representatives came, the chief accounting officer and a city attorney.
Nobody wants to go to jail, but everybody wants to do something wrong. Now the thing is with that, right, is that if nobody wants to go to jail, but everybody want to do wrong, that means everybody's going to tell.
You know, the federal government, they had a thing to where they would pay an informant. Okay, instead of sending you to prison, which we can, for 10 or 15 years out of your life, or 20 years, you become my informant. okay? You let me know what's going on. And that's the way the government works.
Oh, if I would have stayed working with them, bro, I'd have never went to jail. Never.
Right. Because they out cold, man.
Bro, they offered me 3 years when I got in trouble.
Yeah.
They came and offered me 3 years.
And the feds did. What you have to do for that?
Demetrius, Cliff, all types of shit.
They wanted me to shut up Demetrius and all that, man. I probably would have got killed.
Why you didn't set up them though? They was more dangerous than the Curry brothers?
Demetrius?
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Wait till I show you the letter Jimmy Harris wrote from prison about the Damian Lucas murder.
Yeah, I need to see that. I want that, man.
Oh, the letter blows up. You know who Jeffrey Collins is?
No.
Jeffrey Collins was the head U.S. attorney in the Eastern District of Michigan.
Okay.
And they made him quit, bro. After he said he's the one kept me in prison. Now him and his wife are big lawyers. They just had him in Sunday paper 2 weeks ago.
Straight up.
Got a big ass loft in downtown Detroit. Dude should be in prison.
Straight up.
Just wait till you read the letter. I told the lawyer to send me the letter. Wait till you read it.
Yeah,
they
man.
named politicians and everything, man.
He was 13, 14 years old when he started, and he got arrested when he was 17, been in jail since he was 18, so, basically had his childhood taken away from him. And even though he had a nice couple years there where he was living the life, 16-year-olds can only imagine, with the money and the women and the travel and the access with being able to buy on any car you want or boat or take any trip you want, and you have a 16-year-old kid sitting down with Cuban drug lords to negotiate product. 16-year-old white kid that should be playing high school baseball or going to the mall with their friends and spending the $10 they made mowing the lawn. He's got $10,000 in his pocket, and he's buying fur coats. So he had a pretty heady couple years there when he was 16, 17 years old, but he's been in jail since he was 18, and he's almost 40 now, and just kind of a sad end of the story.
Not just that, the statute changed. And it was Engler it was the Republicans who changed the statute. And if the statute would have applied to any human being, I represented a kid that was 17 or 18. We tried the case in Oakland County, and he, got life. And of course, when they changed the statute, they let him out because that's what it was intended to do. You don't want to keep a kid, 17, 18-year-old kid there for 50, 60 years, not to mention the fact, who do you think's paying? You and me are paying for that. So it's a sad situation that your reputation can follow you, for 20-some years. I tell my son all the time, it doesn't take long you can have a great reputation for 40 years and one night can blow it. And if there's ever anybody that proves it, it's Rick Wershe.
15 years later, in 2003, Rick was up for parole, but he was denied, even after Kid Rock and 2 federal agents asked for him to be let out. Kid Rock wanted him out so bad, he said that if he was let go, he would give Rick a job.
I think he's just white boy Rick. If he'd have just been even Maserati Rick, he might not have got life. But white boy Rick, it just caught everybody's imagination. Here's this white boy in Detroit, and look and he's this and he's that. Like he's ordering meats around and ordering the curries around, and that was just complete horseshit,
Yeah, the law's been repealed about 6 years ago. So now he's life in prison he's eligible for parole. But his past, his history, his nickname all kind of play against him. Like I said, he's kind of an icon of the era, and a lot of people look at that era because he was one of, if not the most recognizable figure of that era. He kind of represents it, even though when you compare what he did and his run to a lot of these other people, it really is dwarfed.
Because in 2002, the dude who's the Attorney General now of Michigan,
Yeah.
I was cooperating with him about they were going to try and prosecute them dudes. Then they just stopped doing it.
Why you think they stopped?
I heard because of the names that was coming up.
Listen, the dude gave Don 6 Ds, bro, from the car, before cars. That's how that whole shit originated. That was all bullshit, man.
So
all that shit about me being involved in this and that, that's all lies, man. And he'll tell you that.
Oh, so you never even fuck with Fat Cat Nichols or none of them?
Not on that. I knew him. I knew his son. His son was the one that I got sent them through to Shady, to Goliath Management.
Okay.
Making money with, I wasn't. They were with beats in them, selling beats. And one of the kids, he just did Britney Spears' whole album, Danger.
Throughout the ages, snitches have been reviled and looked upon with hatred and disgust. Judas Iscariot was perhaps the first in a long line of infamous informants, whose names are forever shamed and disgraced. Sammy the Bull, Joe Valachi, Nicky Barnes, Rat, Squealer, Stool Pigeon. Many words have been used to describe this dishonorable breed of men. Yet today, snitching is on the rise, and the use of informants is commonplace in many criminal investigations. As a result, distrust between police and the black community is stronger than ever, with snitching now being viewed as a bigger offense than the crime. This past year, the New York Times, USA Today, and media across the country have published articles on a stop snitching movement that has emerged in inner cities throughout the United States. And on the streets, a mantra is now being heard.
The way they use criminal informants, they say they use criminal informants to solve most of their cases. You know, we just feel at StopSnitching.com, we feel like, you know, that's the part that's undermining the justice system, you know what I mean? Because criminal informants are also the lead cause of wrongful convictions. When you're offering somebody something in return for their testimony, you have a problem.
I was born and raised in the ghetto. I was born and raised in the ghetto.
Kyoka, Krills Mania, Dale, Dale. All my niggas locked down, doing that time, you heard me? It's for you. We kill them, fuck boy niggas, let's go. These niggas bitchin', they snitchin', they talking to the coppers. They plan to stop us and lock us, surround us by helicopters. Joe got hella choppers and hella rockets, propeller poppers. You better watch what you saying, you singing, this ain't the opera. Push your shit back like a trashy album, you wildin'. I heard you pussy, you was crying, and then you step on the island. Hollin', they tryna dead us to stop a cheddar. Now I'm forever gon' get it, admit it, this nigga shittin'. Animal, Hannibal, flow, these hands are damage, you dog. It's understandable, you tangible, we'll dismantle your bones. Chillin' with my killers in my platinum roll.